Topic 4. Tools to crack big ideas. Here's some examples of tools which you can now use either with your agency or amongst the team to come up with big ideas. Now let's look at the Subway campaign, which was done a couple of years ago, about a man who lost over 200 pounds eating Subway. And it's a true story. This campaign was very controversial and got a lot of people talking about it. In fact, the agency really did a very good job milking every single angle to make this campaign as viral as it could be. But do you know what a lot of people don't realize? What a lot of marketing people who hear about this story never knew? And that is that this particular idea was not picked up by the agency, but in fact was picked up by a store owner who just happened to be paying attention to his customers. What this says is that we really ought to spend more time looking around ourselves in our own business environment and looking at what's going on. It's very difficult to write a message, to form a personality about how to talk to a segment if we don't really know what it looks like. But imagine for a moment that we do, that we can see our customer, that we do connect with them, that we can understand they have a name, they have a face, they have a personality, they have a behavior. We can come up with some very interesting ideas which we can share among our team and share with the agency to try to get some better ideas coming through. The more information, the more experiences, the more stimulus that we are open to every day of our lives, the more likely we are to come up with creative ideas. So let's take, for instance, some little tools which can help us do that. A camera to take pictures of billboards, advertising, print media, newspapers, people around us. A particular favorite one of mine is a mobile. I own a BlackBerry and I use it to record down my thoughts and ideas, books which people tell me are very interesting to read. Later, when I sync it with my computer, I can then Google and find out if the book is good, and if it is good, I can buy it from Amazon. A friend of mine likes to keep a visual diary. She thinks that by writing down ideas about what's going on around her, the events that she attends, that she can improve the dining experience for her customers. Another great tool that is also happens to be a personal favorite of mine is the iPod, one of the greatest educational devices of the 20th century. And I can each morning plug it in, download my podcasts, and listen to them, gaining access to the way that other marketers are thinking without having to meet them in the room. There is a lot of scientific research which suggests that exercise improves blood flow and oxygen to the brain. You ever notice that when you're sitting in a chair, you feel quite rigid, sometimes clammed up? You're sitting there, you're sweating, and you're trying to come up with ideas or trying to think through and create a vision or understand some complicated strategy and trying to come up with a plan. Often though, when we get up, we start moving around, we're walking around, pacing up and down a hallway, or we decide to go out and walk to a destination rather than take a taxi. Magically, somehow, we get the answer as we're in motion. I'd like to introduce you to the technique called writing it down on the napkin. Napkins were invented to remind advertising agencies that when they meet the client for boozy lunches, they need to get some work done, i.e. they need to write down their ideas in a small space and sell them into the client. One marketer I knew used to say, if you can't write your idea on a piece of paper, as in a small space, you don't have an idea. I'm not suggesting for any moment now that you'd have to have napkins beside you, of course not. But post-it notes, recycled paper, anything which is small that you can show your idea working is very good. So here we have an example of an IKEA piece. This is one done for Heineken. And can you tell the visual pun of the bottom? Extra chewing gum for tough teeth. What I'd like to discuss now is the art of brainstorming and looking at a technique that many call, and that I call, what if. What if can be a really great way of brainstorming in a group. The best way to visualize is imagine as a series of blocks. Somebody lays down a first block, and then somebody then puts another block on top, and then builds another block on top, and then another block, until we end up with a sum of parts which one individual mind could not have produced. This process is not about judging what we come up with or the contributions of the people in the table, but what it is it's a way to get down ideas really, really quickly. Now here's an example of how that might work. The next brainstorming session, Somebody might decide that in their proposal they're going to use an elephant as part of their campaign. So it might begin with, what if it's an elephant? Somebody else in the room then suggests, well, what if it's a pink elephant? We've seen the grey elephant. Oh, that's something that our competitors have done. Well, let's try a pink elephant this time. Somebody who likes the pink elephant and thinks, well, elephants tend to be something which is grounded. What if we had a flying one? Now, that is something really original. And somebody might top that off by saying, that is a really great idea. What if we had a pink elephant that can fly and would greet the customer when they touch down at an airport? Absurd, isn't it? Absolutely crazy these ideas may sound. And a lot of our instincts or beliefs tell us straight away that these ideas won't work and not to write them down. We become quite critical. But it's very, very important that in the what if session that we don't judge our ideas. We just get them down. This is almost like we're trying to tap the collective subconscious of all the people. And if we have 4 minds working at it rather than one, the chances are we're going to come up with more stuff. Okay, now let's look at something which is a little simpler, like a promotion. As marketing people, we all know how important the price is to the promotion. It's always very clearly featured, it's always very, very bold, and it's at the forefront of the creative piece. What if we developed a promotion that made the customer guess the price? We turned the whole idea of a promotion on its head. How cheap can you fly to Bali? Customer keys in the amount of money they expect that they could get away with flying to Bali. And what if somebody else in our team suggests that it's not just a promotion which made you guess the price, but also gave you a free set of steak knives if you guessed the right amount? What an interesting promotion, giving away a promotional item by involving the person in how much the price of cost would be to fly to Bali. Now we're going to look at the overnight test. This is when we begin to actually judge our ideas. Often what happens is that throughout the process of coming up with ideas, the idea generation stage, looking at what if, examining different type of stimulus, is that we can, as what advertisers call, fall in love with their idea. Now we get wrapped up in it and we can't seem to look at it objectively. So hopefully the overnight test is going to provide us the means to look at all our ideas and see them in the light that they really are. What's also good about the overnight test is that it gives us the capability of actually starting to classify the work we're looking at. We shouldn't just think as work as being not good or good, but being either hot, as in, we really believe this is going to work. If we take the creative and we think about the business environment, our customers, our logistics, our capability of executing, and of course the budget. Can we do it? If it meets these criteria, we should classify it as being hot. Now, learning from our mistakes. Now, this is not so much a technique, but more like a principle. And I use the example of a famous food store near our office in Chinatown called Takpo, located on Smith Street. What I particularly like, or the food in which case these people are famous for, is the fish belly congee. I'm a big fan of it. What does make this fish belly different than any other congee which is offered? Why is it that this store has become famous? Now, thinking about it, okay, sure, it's the ingredients, it's the way it's cooked. But I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think really what makes this bowl of soup sing more than any other bowl of congee is the fact that this person, this particular cook, has cooked it over 5,000 times. The more you do something, the better you get at it. A lot of marketers often, as soon as they reach a point or they try something which has a negative impact or doesn't get exactly the result they do, they abandon the program altogether. We're not going to do it again. It didn't work. Really though, when you break it down, you begin to look at the campaign. Usually you can find elements of things which did work and things which didn't work. You don't necessarily have to abandon or retreat completely. And when you think about this particular store in Chinatown, I imagine at the beginning when they started cooking the fish congee, they probably didn't cook a great fish congee. They probably took them time, and over time they began doing better and better and better meals.